Hello, welcome back to WizKid. Today we're doing the Polyjuice Potion.
Also
Last
known
time we
as the
did,
butter junk effect.
yep, last time was Dueling Club, this time Polyjuice Potion. Only doing one this time. We'll be back to two next time. But yes, this is the chapter where finally this sort of arc, I guess you could say, of them preparing the Polyjuice Potion pays off with Harry and Ron going on a sneaky adventure to see if Malfoy knows anything about the heir of Slytherin and the attacks that have been going on.
Yep, and
And
Hermione becomes a furry.
very much. Yes. So the first thing that happens though is resolving the cliffhanger from last time, which is Harry, has been sent to Dumbledore's office following the petrification of um, Justin, Fitch Fletchley, and Nearly Headless Nick. He has a bit of a chat with the Sorting Hat where he's like, he puts it on again, and they're like, "Oh hey, I remember you." He's like, "Yeah." Everyone's saying, like, everyone thinks I'm the heir of Slytherin. He's like, "Yeah, you'd be good in Slytherin. I stand by that." He's like, "No." And then he thinks that he kills Dumbledore's bird because it just bursts into flames.
Yeah, that part's pretty good. Um,
I don't really have much else to say about it, so
yeah, you said that the cliffhanger turned out to be a nothing burger.
kind of. I do see your point about this scene, but to me, it kind of basically just exists to establish Forks. That's like the most important thing here for me.
Yeah, it pretty much what I have written down here. I basically I pointed out the part. Like I like it whenever there's a scene of Harry just kind of being left on his own to like poke around at things, but not. He's like not wanting to get into trouble, but he's just curious about the stuff around him, and so that kind of happens here where he sees the Sorting Hat again, and he's hoping to get reassurance that he like, oh no, you totally belong in Gryffindor, but the Sorting Hat's just kind of being an ass. The bit with Fox is great because he's like, no, the cheat is one fine looking young man, but that is an ugly bird, and then this bird is like gurgling and shit, and he's like, wouldn't it be great if this thing just died while I was here? That would look really great, and then it just burst into flames. So great timing on that.
I just want to preemptively like answer a potential comment here, which is I'm not saying this scene is bad because it doesn't move the plot along very much. That's not what I meant. I just meant they set up this cliffhanger and it doesn't really like lead to anything directly.
Yeah.
The scene is fine for world building and just establishing stuff, building on the character and Harry, Dumbledore, Hogwarts, even with just showing us the headmaster's office is cool. I'm just saying, like, it feels like that, like, oh shit, Harry is in trouble. He's going to Dumbledore's office. Ah, never mind, it's fine.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
I don't know if I have a whole lot else to say on it. I have another bit later, but as far as like the poking around a bit goes, I don't know if it's like a bad thing for me to mention that I kind of do that too. Like, if I ever have the opportunity to kind of like, that's the thing. It's like I won't snoop. Like I draw the line at like actively like rifling through shit. But if I'm like in an area where there's just like a bunch of stuff around me, like I'm gonna be looking at it even if it's not kind of meant for me. I don't know. Like
I can get that. I mean, I know somebody who, thankfully, he hasn't really done this at my place that many times, like, even when he's come over. But he has a habit of when he's at places, he'll just pick shit up and just start, like, fucking with it. Like, it's, he went to my friend Charlie's, and Charlie had, like, one of those stupid, like, metal pin board things where, like, not board, what do you call it? Anyway, where you can press a 3D shape into it. And you would just
oh
pick
yeah.
it up and start fucking with it.
Yeah, it's a little different. That's like it's a toy or whatever. I would draw the line at, going through somebody's phone or like looking through documents or something.
Yeah,
but like,
I don't think my friend would do that.
But like, if like somebody has something up on their computer and they leave the room, like, I'll see what's on the screen, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we actually skipped our mandatory shitty opening here.
Oh yeah.
There's not much to it. We have an instance of wheeling. Just the strange gagging noise behind him made him wheel around in reference to Fox. And a highly debatable, like, I felt stupid putting this one on here for unlocalized Britishisms of they lurked in the desert. Like, basically just the mention of Christmas tea. Just calling tea, like, or like calling a meal tea or whatever. Like, I don't know.
I would say that is a Britishism, and it is unlocalized. So.
But we do have a couple other changes, some stupider than others. When they are when they're moving Crab and Goyle, like when they basically have to, like, you know, they knock them out and they're having to drag them into the closet or whatever. First of all, it changed from cupboard to closet, but also the original version says much the most difficult bit was dragging them, and that was changed to by far the hardest part.
Understandable.
The polyjuice potion was originally described as treacle thick. They changed that to glutinous. And the look on Crab and or Goyle's face went from gormless to clueless. I have heard of gormless before. It's definitely not a common word, though. And here's one that I want to ask you about, because
Sure.
at the very end of the last chapter, when they go into Dumbledore's office, McGonagall says the password to get in. Is it lemon drop in your version, too? Because I think it's sherbet lemon in the movie. I know sherbet lemon is a British thing specifically.
It's sherbet lemon in mine.
Huh, that was not on the list then. Yeah, for me it was lemon.
Sherbert lemon.
Really? I thought sherbert was a southern U.S. thing. I didn't know that was over there too. Anyways, yeah, those sections are always pointless. I've been debating for a while if we should eventually drop them, but yeah. So, yeah, as far as the
while we're on that tangent, do you want to mention the thing you found earlier, with which relates to a previous chapter?
You'll have to remind me what you mean.
They just cut an entire section out of
yeah.
They added a whole.
Yeah, let me find that. It was on the website that is listing the differences between the two versions. In the episode in the chapter where they steal the flying car, Ron says, we're stuck. We have to get to school, don't we? Even underage wizards are allowed to use magic, blah, blah, blah. There's an entire section here that apparently is only in the Scholastic version of the books. It's, but your mum and dad, said Harry, pushing against the barrier again in the vain hope it would give away. How will they get home? They don't need the car, said Ron impatiently. They know how to apparate, just vanish and reappear at home. They only bother with flu powder and the car because we're all underage and we're not allowed to apparate yet. Apparently that whole section is just not in some copies, and it's I don't even think it's a regional thing. I think it's just dependent on which publisher it came from.
Did they add it multiple years later?
I'm not sure, but it says that
they didn't even mention apparition until Half-Blood Prince, maybe a little earlier.
It's definitely earlier than that, but okay. I don't know. But yeah, it says the discrepancy endured even with the additions and corrections to the text in 2004. So I guess it's just some versions have it, some don't.
Maybe when Scholastic was publishing it, the editor gave it a read, and they're like, "Oh no, how do Molly and Arthur get home?
Maybe
doesn't Harry care about that?" I don't know.
It's like when Hagrid stole the boat and the Dursleys are stuck on the island.
But, yeah. Speaking of Hagrid.
Yeah, go ahead and jump into that.
I just appreciate Hagrid rushing to Harry's defense. We kind of ragged on him a little bit in Philosopher's Stone because there were a couple instances of him being kind of selfish, mostly with the dragon, where he basically just made that Harry, Ron, and Hermione's problem. Or, I mean,
they offered to help with it, but then got in trouble, and he did nothing to help them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He didn't reciprocate, so we were critical of him for that. Here, he drops whatever the hell he was doing, rushes straight to Dumbledore's office to plead for Harry's innocence.
Yeah, do you understand the significance of it, though?
Because Hagrid was also falsely accused of basically the exact same thing.
Right.
During his time at school.
Yeah, I read about that recently. I hadn't really thought of that before, but yeah, the reason Hagrid is so like gung ho on defending him and is like, I'll stand up for him like in front of the Wizengamot or whatever. Like, yeah, because he's basically worried that the same thing's going to happen to Harry, that he's going to get blamed for this.
Yeah.
So, only other things really to say about the scene with Dumbledore. When he comes in and explains about phoenixes, I do love this list of things phoenixes can do. It's like, oh, they can carry immensely heavy loads. They have healing properties. They're very loyal. It's like, okay, are all of these things going to come back later? Yes.
They always show up at the most convenient of times.
I don't think he said that, but
no, he didn't.
But yeah, there's just a kind of a good character moment here where, after Hagrid comes in and freaks out, and Dumbledore's like, he's not going to get in trouble. Hagrid leaves, and the only thing Dumbledore says is just, while I have you here, is there anything you want to tell me? And there's this paragraph of Harry kind of like running through his thoughts about, Malfoy being a piece of shit and them brewing the potion and his worries about Slytherin and all that stuff and hearing the voice. And I have to imagine, Dumbledore is probably kind of prying into his mind here, and that I'm wondering if it definitely never says that he does, but I kind of get the feeling that that's what's happening here, especially since
I thought that the use of legilimency always is noticed by the target.
I don't know if it is.
Or do you have to know basic occlumency to notice it? Maybe.
Possibly. There's a bunch of lines of Dumbledore and or Snape, staring intently at Harry, and he, gets the feeling that they know exactly what he's thinking or whatever. And I always read those as bits where, they are kind of doing that. And,
I always figured they were just trying to intimidate him into potentially confessing.
There's, I could be completely off base here, that's just what I'm thinking, but,
let us know in the comments what you think.
The other thing is, the paragraph is set up so perfectly where it's he thinks about this and this and this and this. It's almost like, in the scenes where...
flashing through, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically, yeah, he's, rifling through, seeing all the stuff he's thinking about. So, I don't know if that's what he's necessarily going for, but that's what I thought it was. And, either way, it kind of shows, Harry's... I was just going to say, Harry's thinking about all this stuff, and he doesn't want to admit any of it because, he's kind of struggling here, worrying, okay, am I actually, the heir of Slytherin or whatever? Are people, are they correct to be fearing me? I don't really know. But it's he doesn't want to get confirmation because he already sort of got that from the Sorting Hat. And... also, he just doesn't really trust adults that much because of the fucking Dursleys, so it makes perfect sense for him to kind of stay quiet here.
Indeed. So, yeah, I guess that leads us to the point that I think we interpret this section differently, because you see it as, Dumbledore's taking the opportunity to try to learn stuff from him. I saw it more as just he's trying to, I don't want to say test Harry, but, see what Harry is willing to talk to him about, potentially, and... just see if Harry trusts him and that kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's I don't see this necessarily as the type of thing where it's bring Harry to my office because I want to read his mind. I think it's more a case of just is there anything you want to tell me? He's sitting there silently, very obviously do I want to talk about this? And then he kind of takes the opportunity to poke in.
I see. I hope Harry got the permanently missable wizard card in Dumbledore's office. Because if you go up to the back part and you don't open the chest and get the card, and then you walk back down when Dumbledore shows up, then you can't come back here and get it unless you use debug mode.
Good. Do those games even have debug mode?
Yeah.
Okay.
PC versions.
I wasn't sure if we were going for, if you were making a reference to some other thing, or... Yeah, okay.
You actually have to use it to access a cut level.
Oh, good.
Weird. There's a door in the Gryffindor common room, and if you go through it and using no clip, then you can go to an extra level. Anyway.
So yeah, we're finally done with that scene. And it just kind of, transitions into it's the Christmas holidays, everybody's leaving.
Yeah, I don't remember the context, but the word hitherto comes up, and I enjoy the word hitherto.
Yeah, let me find it. It just makes me think of hence to forthwith.
Yes. That should be a lovely film.
The double attack on Justin and nearly headless Nick turned what had hitherto been nervousness into real panic. So, yeah, basically everybody's leaving for the holidays because there's a fucking monster running amok, so I mean, fair enough. It's mentioned that, like, some of the very few people to stay include Draco and then Crab and Goyle, who are only staying because he is, and they just do whatever he does, which works out very conveniently. I had to check if it was, like, if they had explained why Draco was staying, because, he's kind of a daddy's boy. I'm surprised he's not going home. It did mention in, like, the previous chapter, there was just a very brief explanation where it's like, they had heard he was staying, so that works out well. But I don't think they ever really give a reason, so I don't know. So, yeah, you've got some stuff here.
Yeah, I'm trying to actually find the part. Oh, is this with Fred and George?
Yeah, pretty much. The first bit, it just says, Harry was tired of people skirting around him in the corridors as though he was about to sprout fangs or spit poison.
That's right, yeah. And I'm just like, funnily enough, the monster does have fangs and spit poison. Or at least it spits poison in the game. I don't know if it does that in...
Yeah, not sure if that's mentioned. It's definitely venomous, because...
Yes, yeah.
But...
and then the next clause mentions the word hissing, which is also funny. I don't know if this is intentional or not, because in the same line, like in the context of talking about Harry as the person responsible, they mention fangs, poison, hissing. Like,
yeah,
I guess
it could be foreshadowing
in general, but yeah. Anyway, so Fred and George are like the only ones that are basically not taking this seriously, and they're just like kind of taking the piss out of it, which Harry appreciates because it makes it seem less like.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of a weird situation because people are already avoiding him, and so then they're going around like, "Everybody, look out! Here comes the Dark Wizard!" Ooh, and it's like,
well, they're trying to make it ridiculous.
Yeah, they are, but it's also like drawing more attention to it, so I'm not really sure if it's helping. But
well, they're trying.
Yeah.
I'm finding that on this reread of the books, I'm appreciating Fred and George a lot more.
They are pretty great.
Like they've always been kind of funny and amusing characters, but I like that they're really they're good sort of older brother figures to Harry.
Yeah.
Even if it's in a sort of mischievous, trickstery way. But yeah. So anyway, Fred and George are doing all this, and it mentions that Malfoy keeps scowling at them. I don't actually know why. I don't know if the real reason is given, because it's not because Harry and Ron and Hermione are like, oh man, he wants to badly admit that it's actually him, but we know it's not him. So
yeah, I'm not really sure what his deal is, other than just generally being kind of a piece of shit. Yeah, I don't think they give an explanation. Because as we find out later, Malfoy also really wants to know who's behind it, and he's like, because I want to help them. But I don't really see this relating to that much.
Yeah.
Other than, I guess, he's just annoyed that Harry's getting the credit when he knows it's not him. I don't know.
Yeah. So then it reaches Christmas Day, and it's time for the Polyjuice adventure, and I didn't realize it happened on Christmas. But...
Yeah, I had forgotten that, too. I knew it would happen during this time, but not specifically Christmas Day. So I mentioned here there's a blink and you miss it sentence where it says that the main trio and the other Weasleys are the only ones left in Gryffindor Tower, so they're just kind of hanging around. It says they could do whatever they wanted, including practicing dueling, which just kind of surprised me. I'm wondering who exactly was taking place, who was participating here, if it was just Fred and George fucking around, or if Harry and Ron tested some spells out. It would be kind of cool to know, I guess. And then Percy is being his usual snobbish self and is just kind of getting on their ass about this. And he's just like, I only stayed because it's the prefect's duty to help the teachers during this trying time. It's like,
Yes.
I'm like 100% sure he only stayed because Penelope stayed, and they're just kissing in the broom cupboard somewhere.
Yeah,
Because we run into her later, not by name, but I'm like pretty sure it's her.
So they get their presents. Harry receives a toothpick from the Dursleys.
Yes.
I don't know why they even bothered to wrap it, if the wrapping probably cost more than the toothpick.
Well, they also sent him a note asking if he could stay for the summer as well. So, like, I guess that was their reason for sending it. I don't know. It was, you gotta commit to the bit. Like, even if it's impractical to send the worst gift you can think of, you gotta send a message. Because which is worse, getting nothing or getting false hope, and then it's like, lol, it's a toothpick. Get fucked.
Actually, I did not make a note here, but this does remind me that when I was God, I have this stupid wooden puzzle box thing I got in Hungary probably 11 years ago, maybe 13, and there's a secret way of opening it, and once you get in there, there's a compartment to put. There's actually two compartments. There's the regular one, and then there's also a weird mirror that you can slide out the way. But anyway, I remember on the day that I got it, we went to a cafe, and I put a toothpick in the box and locked it. And ever since then, every time I show people the box, I'm always like, "Hey, do you want to try to open this? There's a prize inside." And they're always like, "Oh, is there?" So I don't think anybody has ever figured out how. Maybe one person figured out how to open it without me telling them. But they get in there, and there's just a toothpick, and I'm like, I didn't say it would be a good prize. That's my punchline. I've done this same joke every time to multiple different people.
Excellent.
They never get to keep the toothpick. I always keep it in there. It's the same one. It's been it's the same toothpick for 13 years.
There's something about holding on to worthless objects that you've had for a long time. You got to see how long you can keep it.
Yeah, exactly. Your drawing of a weak-low pogging.
Yes, I also had a whole bunch of rubber keyboard, I don't know what you'd call it, the thing that goes under the key to cushion it. I had a whole bunch of those that I stole from school that I put inside a pill bottle. I had those for a long time.
Good.
God, what else? There was that, the not prawn cube puzzle. I don't think I have that anymore, unfortunately. I don't know what happened to it. I kept that for a long time. Just, stupid shit like that.
But yeah, so I've also got a note here that says gotta update Harry's inventory, because way back during the Christmas part of Philosopher's Stone, I jokingly suggested that we should keep track of all of the random bullshit that Harry gets over the course of the books. So we're not actually doing this, but
we totally should, though.
Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to. So yeah, let it be known, Harry received a toothpick and a second Weasley jumper.
Well, he also got a book about the Chudley cannons and an eagle feather quill, which I don't know how elegant that is, or if it has any special capabilities beyond a regular quill. But
this has nothing to do with anything. But I remember whenever I was a kid, if there was a feather on the ground that a bird had dropped, I would always want to go pick it up and play with it because I like the soft feathery part. Yes. And my mom would always freak out, be like, "No, don't touch that! You'll get bird flu."
God.
I don't know if that was founded or not, but
I think I have a hoodoo feather. I don't remember if I still do, but when I was a kid, I had a feather that was allegedly from a bald eagle. I don't know if it actually was, but that's what I was told. And the explanation I was given is I was given to it from my dad, and he was only able to give it to me because he apparently got it from an American Indian, and they're the only ones who are allowed to have them. I'm pretty sure this was bullshit, but this was the explanation I was given.
Good.
I don't know.
And then finally, I don't know if I actually want to read this note, but
oh my god.
Basically, there was another instance of sniggering.
Yes.
Which, gotta point that out. So unnecessary.
Of course. So anyway, so here, we're gonna go off on another tangent here. This isn't even in the notes, but I had to ask about this one last night when I was taking the notes for this. So they go down to Christmas dinner. It's not explained what they're like. They don't say what they have for dinner, but it does mention that Harry and Ron have 3 helpings of Christmas pudding, which, as I've come to basically accept, pudding could be anything.
Yeah, it just means dessert.
But so they have this, and then it's like mentioned a couple sentences later. It's like, when Crabbe and Goyle got done with Christmas tea, they did this. I'm like, okay, is the Christmas tea different from the dinner? Is the dinner like? I thought you said it was different. Okay, I don't know, but what it comes down to is bathtub fish.
Oh, God, are we talking about this?
You got to explain the bathtub fish.
All right, we were just kind of talking about Christmas dinner and Christmas traditions and stuff. And
I will say mine first because it's much less interesting. In my experience, there isn't really a tradition with Christmas dinner. If anything, it's kind of the same as Thanksgiving dinner, except like maybe a little bit less. Like, you don't go all out with it. I think many years we just kind of had a normal dinner. I guess it depends on if you have like a bunch of family over or something. So yeah, for me, there's no tradition. But
so I've never actually. Okay, well, yeah. So the like, it's 3 courses typically. There's the starter is basically a cream of lentil soup, which, being as fussy of an eater as I am, I'm surprised I actually like that. Then traditionally, recently my mom has just made chicken, like roast chicken, because she hasn't been bothered with this. But traditionally, it's fish, or like a fish, sometimes a fish stew. It sort of depends.
Well, you got to mention, this is not a British thing. This is a Slovak thing, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Because my family is Slovak. Yeah. Traditionally, it would be a carp, and I mentioned to you that, like, so basically the carp is kept in the bathtub for a few days prior to Christmas. And
yeah, you just keep a live fish in the bathtub.
Yeah. And, like, you guys can look up Slovak bathtub fish Christmas right now. Basically, the reason that I remembered was, like, it cleans out the innards of the fish with the clean water. That is a factor, but it's not that's not the main reason. I asked my mom about it earlier, and apparently the main reason is basically just because so unlike in the UK, I don't know about America, but in the UK, like, they'll basically wait until the last minute to actually close the shops. So, like, the shops will be closed on Christmas Day and maybe Boxing Day for some shops, but, like, that's it. 24th they're still open, 23rd, etc. Whereas in Slovakia, maybe even as early as the 20th, the shops might be closed for, like, a full week. Or like a few days. And
yeah, that's definitely not the case here.
And so you can't the only way for the fish to be fresh on the day is to keep it alive in your house and then slaughter it on the day. I asked my mom about it because I don't remember it ever happening with me. She said that she has done it. She always hated having to slaughter, because you have to hit over the head with like a hammer or like a heavy thing to kill it, and then you have to cut its head off.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too terribly pleasant.
She hasn't done it in like over 20 years, but God, this is such a tangent. And then she wanted to inform me that like in Slovakia, you turn the, like, most, the main part of the fish into like a stew or something, or maybe you just eat it on its own. I can't remember. It was in like a voice message, so I can't really listen to it right now. But in the southern part of Slovakia and in Hungary, because of Hungarian cultural exchange with, my family is part Hungarian as well. They also do stuff with the carp's head, where they will use it as like stock for a soup called magyaros halászlé. I think I said that right. So there you go.
Basically, all I gathered from it was bathtub fish, but
yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just a good image.
You can insert it.
No.
Yeah,
but,
people can look it up.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that was a massive tangent. But anyway, to go back, yeah, it's like what it, like you know whoever is remaining of the student body and like the teachers and stuff are all in the Great Hall having the Christmas dinner or whatever. Dumbledore's singing carols, Hagrid's getting drunk. Malfoy is apparently making fun of Harry's sweater, which is stupid because it has a big H on it, and that's great. Um, that's pretty much all I got.
Yep. So
Yeah, so that all happens. Yeah, I guess there's just kind of, plot stuff happens, not really a lot to say about it. It's just, the potion is finished. They have to get the hairs from Crabbe and Goyle.
yeah.
So
they're getting ready.
like
And-
Hermione has this plan.
Yeah,
like-
because basically Crabbe and Goyle have stayed, so they can just kind of deal with them and take their places for a little bit. Millicent Bulstrode went home though, so they can't like Hermione's excuse for, if somebody asks like, "Oh hey, I thought you went home," which would just be like, "Oh, I decided to come back." And I'm like, that would be a really shitty excuse. So it's probably lucky that Hermione's potion actually ends up failing.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone would have bought that.
But I do love this plan though of like, let's roofie these chocolate cakes and then just kind of leave them. Like in the movie they levitate them, which is way stupider because it's just like, why are there just these floating cakes here? In the book they just like leave them on like a banister. And it's like, they're going to see these and, they'll be so greedy, they'll definitely eat them. And they do because they're dumbasses. And yeah, that's basically it.
So this plan is kind of amazingly overcomplicated. But,
there's a line Ron has where he says, have you ever heard of a plan where so many things could go wrong? And I'm just like, yes. How about the one where you had to throw the firecracker into the cauldron? Like, I'm surprised that one went well. But so yeah, they drug them. I called them Grab and Coil. You know how I've been like checking it for instances wherever like Fred and George do things that are like different. There is probably no instance of this ever happening with Crabbe and Goyle until the 7th book. They are just the same entity. Although one of them has a booger-colored polyjuice potion, and one of them is, like, dark brown. So there you go. But,
Yep.
So yeah, they take their shoes, because Harry's like, we're gonna need bigger shoes when we transform. But they don't take anything else, and then I had this whole thing written, I'm like, so what are the robes, like one size fit all? But that can't be true because they have to get them sized at Madame Malkin's. But then they go to the bathroom and Hermione's just like, here, take these bigger robes. It's like, oh, okay. But it does raise the question, are they wearing pants? Like, because I know that's apparently been like, debated among fans. Like, do they wear anything underneath the robes?
They've gotta.
You'd think so.
When they say robes, I figure they just mean clothes.
I always see it as just like, a big black, like, basically a dress, but it's like you gotta have like, do you have stuff on underneath it? I don't know.
Like, I don't know. Again, I don't know how it is and how it's supposed to be in the book. So I'm pretty sure that in like the other media when they're depicted, the robes don't completely cover the front of them. Like you can see, you can see their front, like their top and their pants and stuff. Like,
yeah, I don't know. It's like, I'm not sure what the original intent was. I'd have to look at the like artwork and stuff. But either way, whatever.
it also doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't at all. But you got to nitpick shit. So yeah, they put the hairs into the potions. And this thing is described as being like incredibly disgusting, and like Hermione, like, she scoops it out in dollops. Like, I'm not sure if it's lumpy or like what it is, but either way,
I assume it's sort of like, God, I'm not sure what to compare it to. Almost like ice cream, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
We have to scoop it out, and then it's sort of sticky and like, has to come out. It's not lumpy, but it's just.
Yeah. Hermione says that it's only going to last for 1 hour. So I made the comment that it's only half as good as Andalite technology. They need to get an Azkaban device. But
I assume that's a Animorphs thing.
Yes.
But I don't know anything about that series other than
I will probably go on a tangent about it soon here, depending on where this conversation leads, but basically it's just the morphing technology in that series is it's not like inherent to any species. It was an invention that was made. And
Mm-hmm.
to get the ability, you basically touch this blue cube that like bestows you with the power. And when you have it, it's just you can stay in morph for 2 hours, and if you stay longer than that, then you get stuck in it. So that was the whole that there was no joke there. Um, so yeah, the potion apparently tastes like steamed cabbage or something. You have a stupid comment here about that.
Oh, oh, that's right. Yeah, it like smells. Oh, wait. Steam.
Well, you
Oh,
you
you're
just
talking
said that in the fan base everybody has to pick their
right.
house and their Patronus and yeah, like
And you can get more nitty gritty if you want. You can like they established that like the love potion smells differently to everyone. Um, so like everyone could pick that if they want, but clearly everyone needs to decide what color that polyjuice potion is.
the color and taste of their polyjuice potion.
Is it established that they taste different?
There is a very questionable line in Deathly Hallows when they become the Seven Harrys, and Hermione says that Harry is much tastier than Crabbe and Goyle.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
So,
But she didn't try the. Okay.
I think she says you look a lot tastier or something.
All right.
Either way, it's meant to be. Yeah.
So just a random adaptation related note here. In the movies and games, polyjuice doesn't affect your voice. I'm not sure if this is supposed to just be a reader benefit, not reader, a viewer, like for the benefits of the viewer type thing,
I assume it is.
or if it's like actually canon. Because the thing is, in the game, it still like I don't know, I can't remember how the movie does it, but in the game, it's still Harry's voice actor, but he's doing an impression of Goyle.
Oh.
So he's like, I don't remember the password. Like, shit like that.
Good.
So it's like, yeah, it's questionable. But in the books, yeah, it changes your voice too. And my last note here is that just suddenly changing bodies like that has got to be really disorienting. Because, like, yeah, you'd be a different weight than you're expecting, a different height. You've got like different proportions. Like you've got to
Right.
relearn how to walk properly because that's not something that comes naturally. The reason babies can't walk is, even once
They have
their
to get
muscles,
used to it.
they have to get used to their own body and moving in it.
Yeah,
So,
there was a good point brought up about Tonks. Like the reason that she might be clumsy is because she's constantly kind of changing her body and is not necessarily like as used to her own like center of gravity or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I figure the way the polyjuice works, it it should be changing your vocal cords along with everything else, so it makes sense for your voice to change.
I agree.
I assumed the movies didn't just to make it easier for viewers to follow.
Yeah.
They also had a section in the movie where Harry's like, you need to try to sound more like Crabbe or whatever, and they try to put on these voices, but I don't think they do a very good job of it. And then there's the part that everybody loves to like fawn over in Deathly Hallows Part 2, where it's Helena Bonham Carter playing Hermione, like
Giving an impression of
yeah, like one character doing an impression of another, like who's doing a voice of the other or something. It's like
well, it's
this
not just the
layer
voice, but it's
of
also the movement.
the mannerisms. Yeah,
Like
it's
they,
like
they had Emma Watson act out the scene of walking up. Like they had Emma Watson walk up pretending to be Bellatrix and like acting as her, like doing movement, and then Helena like closely watched the performance, then tried to mimic that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cool scene, but I've seen people go like way overboard with it. So yeah, this was the part where I was like, if we want to go into the bullshit of how transformations work, we could do this, because there's many levels to this. Like, one question I've definitely seen asked before that the answer terrifies me is if a man polyjuices into a woman and gets pregnant, what happens when he changes back?
Similar thing with like well, I guess it's well, not quite the same question, but in like Ace Attorney, there's like spirit mediums who can channel the dead, and all spirit mediums are female, but even still, like if and that their body like changes to resemble the person they're channeling, for the record. So like, yeah, same question applies if they get pregnant. Like, would that transfer?
Yeah, I don't know. There's also the whole issue of just like this is so nitpicky, and here I'm more willing to accept it than the Animorphs version, where it's like, how is the potion determining what to do for, like, haircut or scars or anything that is, not purely biological. Because
that's why magic comes in, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, for magic that is fine. Like, we can just say that.
And you have to
just
get.
knows.
I imagine it probably gets what they looked like at the time that you got the sample, maybe.
Right. Because again, to go on an Animorphs tangent, the way that they handle that is weird. It's like basically like any injuries that you get while in morph, like, those disappear because it's using the DNA. It's not going to remember that stuff, but it is going to remember, your haircut and how old you are at the time or whatever. It's like it's weird how it decides that, but yeah, that's a whole other conversation. So moving away from that crap, basically, they've had a month to prepare whilst doing this potion, and Hermione has all these details planned out, but still, apparently, none of them made an attempt to find out where the Slytherin common room is, so they have to use part of their, like, 1 hour to try and find that. And
yeah, gotta go through a mini dungeon.
I didn't realize that it was just a random unmarked wall. I had forgotten about that. I figured there was, like, an actual door for it somewhere. But, so yeah, they run into an unnamed Ravenclaw girl along the way, who we assume is Penelope Clearwater, because they then run into Percy shortly after, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I'm a prefect. I can be wherever I want." But, yeah, they were totally doing something.
Yeah.
That's... yeah, pretty much all I got on that.
Do we know Penelope Clearwater is in Ravenclaw?
I think we do.
Okay. But yeah, so they finally get to the door. I think they find Malfoy, actually. And
yeah, because they say to Percy, like, "What are you doing down here?" And then they have that conversation, and then Draco shows up, and he's like, "Oh, there you two are. What are you doing down here?" And it's like,
and then oh yeah, there's even like a moment where like Harry wants to apologize to Percy. He's like, "Wait, no, Goyle wouldn't do that."
Yeah. Also, Draco calls him Peter.
and then Draco like gets to the wall, and he's like, "Hey, I forgot the password. What is it?" And there's a moment where they're like, "Oh shit!" And then Malfoy's like, "Oh no, wait, I remember. It's pure blood," which is an amazingly unsubtle password.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose. It's like,
like,
what's their password? Oh, right, genocide.
Ah, yes, Aryan.
God. So, this is the moment that we've been building up to for all this time, where it's like, oh man, we're finally gonna get to find out for sure what Malfoy's been up to, and there's very little that actually occurs in this. It's just like, we get to see what the Slytherin common room looks like, which is kind of cool, but yeah, Malfoy's like, "Oh man, I gotta show you this," and he has this newspaper clipping. He's like, "My father sent me this. It's hilarious," and it's just like, Arthur Weasley has gotten fined for bewitching a car, and Lucius is like trying to like make him lose his job or something. Yeah, it's I did like the line at the end of just like, you know, Mr. Weasley was unavailable for comment, but Mrs. Weasley, you know, threatened to attack our reporter with a ghoul if he, like, you know, pushes too hard or whatever, which is pretty good. So yeah, that kind of it kind of comes and goes. There's not, I don't know if anything ever comes of that.
Not particularly.
Yeah, basically just the entire time they're in there, Malfoy won't shut up, and it's just
Yeah, this is the most we've ever heard Malfoy talk at once. Usually he just makes like a single snide remark at Harry or somebody else.
he sneers and drawls a lot.
Yeah, here it just goes on like a full-on fucking ramble. It's kind of interesting in that way.
It's like every single thing out of his mouth is either just generally being a piece of shit, or it's, you know, obsessing over the people that he claims to hate, but is very obviously obsessed with. You know, just like, oh, Potter and Granger and Dumbledore, just bitching about everything about them, and he does like an impression of Colin Creevey, and it's like, why is this guy even on your radar? Like, who gives a shit? Like,
adjacency to Judge Dredd. I mean Harry.
But yeah, he's like, it's hilarious because I have to assume this is just what he does all the time, and the dude just does not have a life outside of, you know, constantly being upset over the things that his rivals are doing. But yeah, he mentions like that. Oh, do we have to pause? Yeah, weird interruption. Anyway, so yeah, there's this whole bit of like, apparently Lucius got raided, but it didn't amount to much because most of his dark stuff was hidden in a secret chamber under the drawing room. And like, it mentions later, like, you know, when they get back, Ron's just like, I'll have to let Dad know about that and have them look into it. I don't think that ever comes up again. I'm assuming this secret chamber is not the place where all the prisoners are kept in Deathly Hallows.
Probably
like,
not.
So, I don't know. Hopefully, you know, they find some shit, because dude's an asshole.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise it's pretty uneventful. It's just a lot of Malfoy bragging, and, you know, he says, like, oh, I wish I knew who was behind these attacks, as I want to help them out. And, like, it's like, oh, I hope this monster gets a move on and clears out all the filth. It's like, dude.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm reading this, and I'm like, taking the notes of, you know, how he's just constantly obsessing over shit that he hates, and then I'm like thinking for a second, I'm like, oh god, this is me, because like, I'm constantly bitching about stuff that I read online that gets on my nerves, and it's like, it's become a major part of my personality to just get annoyed by shit but not shut up about it. And I'm like, okay, but the difference though is that I'm not wanting people to die, so maybe I'm not quite as bad.
On a completely different note, Harry and Ron just kind of leave when they start to turn back, and, you know, they just leave. That's it.
Yeah.
Single sentence. In the game, at least in the PC game, the, like, you know, that whole thing is like a chase section where, like, it basically instantly wears off, and Harry changes back. It's Harry by himself in the game. Harry basically immediately changes back. And you have to, like, it's not hard. You can basically just run directly to the exit if you know where it is, but there's like some branching paths that lead to dead ends, and it's kind of comical if you're not stressed out by it, because as a kid, I was like 4 when I did this. It stressed me out so much I couldn't progress until my friend did it for me. And then when I did the stream, I just kind of did it like first or second try or something. If you get caught, it like instantly cuts to this cutscene where like Harry's confronted by Snape. He goes, "Yes, I think expulsion is appropriate here." And then you like, you don't get a gift, but you just kind of reload back to the start of the chase section. But yeah, it was really, really frightening to me as a kid. And it's funny though, because like basically there's just Slytherin NPCs standing around, and if you go near enough to them, they'll go, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here," or some other generic.
What are you doing here?
But every single one of them will say this, so you'll pass by and they'll just like, "Hey, you're not, you're not supposed to, hey," and like, fucking like 40 of them will be all just running behind you in like a big mob. And then as soon as you get out, you're fine. It doesn't matter that the entire common room saw Harry sneaking around in there. Nope. You get out, you're fine. It's really stupid.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Whereas in the book, what happens is, Ron just kind of starts changing back, and, like, Harry does also, and they're like, "Oh no, stomach ache, bye," and they run out, and I don't think Draco knows anything happened. Like, it's mentioned that, like, as they leave the room, they're changing back as they're running, and, like, their shoes are way too big, and then they leave the shoes by the closet that Crabbe and Goyle are locked in, and then they just run back to the bathroom in their socks. They meet no resistance along the way. There are several things that could have gone poorly here, but they didn't. It just kind of worked out.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is the part where it's like, do we want to write in more drama, or do we want to just have them get back? Fuck it, they get back safely. It's like the DM deciding, like, it's like, you gotta roll for encounters. It's like...
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like, oh shit, I got like a 19, they're supposed to encounter a teacher here. Session's almost over, fuck it, you make it back safely. Like,
exactly. That's exactly what happened. So they get back, and it's discussed. Like, earlier on, Hermione's like, "I'm not going with you, just go without me," and she insists, and they're like, "Okay." So they get back, their transformations have worn off. Hermione's has not, because Hermione has turned into a furry.
Yes. Yeah, she is a cat girl, and will be left on someone's doorstep.
So yeah, apparently, like, Millicent had a cat hair on her robe, and Hermione accidentally took that when it was left on her instead of one of Millicent's hairs. So, apparently this doesn't cause you to turn into a cat completely. It just sort of partially changes you to get, like, animal features. And it doesn't wear off for some reason. I do find that weird. Like, why is that different? I don't know.
It's an unexpected side effect, I guess. The potion has very specific uses, and this is going outside of those, and it just kind of, fucks up. I don't know. Basically, she becomes a Nothlate. But,
and so, like, again, you'd think that this might be a source of conflict, but they're kind of just like, Madame Pomfrey doesn't tend to ask questions. You'll be fine.
I don't... Does that actually get established in this chapter, or not until the next one?
It's in this chapter.
I think I, read... I skimmed the last couple paragraphs and didn't give a shit, but yeah. It was just, like...
I think it's this one. I actually did read a little bit of the next one, though, so...
I'll have to find it. It's gonna take me a while, but point is, they're just like, she's freaking out over this, like, everyone's gonna make so much fun of me, and they're just like, oh well. Like, what you gonna do?
Yep.
I want to point out, I have the PDF here. I was at the point, like, at the start of the Polyjuice chapter, I clicked the scroll bar and dragged it down very slightly, and now I'm at chapter 6 of Prisoner of Azkaban. These first few books are so short compared to the last one, like the later ones. But,
yep.
Yeah, I think that's basically it. I'm like...
I had a tiny brain moment here where I was like, why does Millicent still have cat hair on her robes 3 months after she left home? Like, she had to have not washed her robes the entire time for the cat hair to have stayed there, thinking it was like, her family cat, like, at home, but no, it's probably her familiar.
Yeah, I was just like, I saw this note and I just wrote, couldn't the cat, like, be her pet at school? And you're just like, derp.
I forgot that people can have pets, even though Harry has an owl. It doesn't come up that much in these early books.
Hermione gets a cat next year, so.
Yeah. So yeah.
I believe that's pretty much it. I thought I had something else I wanted to add, but I can't think of what it would be. So, yeah.
Comments?
Yep.
Not much in for this time, but somebody pointed out that like not only is the movie Dueling Arena different, it's very silly because as I remembered, it is just a straight narrow table. That's an awful battlefield. You can't dodge. You're highly likely to fall off and get hurt. It's not really applicable to what an actual duel's going to be like. You're not going to be on these stupid, thin ass, narrow. Like, what?
It just makes me think of there was an NES Robin Hood game that Spoonie reviewed that has like these little dueling sections of just you have like. How do you describe it? Like the stupid little the pose you do while wielding the sword with like your other hand kind of behind your back, like
a riposte?
I guess, yeah. It's like the two guys up on the table, just you kind of just wobble back and forth and like take swings at each other, and it looks really unnatural. And that's basically what this duel is.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you know what this comment is referring to. It says, "I want to see Snape watching basketball on a shitty ass black and white portable TV in his office, going wild." Did we talk about something to do with basketball last time?
Yeah, because of the Dream Team.
Oh. Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that. I like the image of Snape being a secret basketball fan. Yeah, that's good. I enjoyed that comment. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, okay. Now that I'm in Chapter 6 of Prisoner of Azkaban, I don't know what the next chapter is, so...
The next two chapters are The Very Secret Diary and Cornelius Fudge.
Oh, I forgot he even had a role in this book. Okay.
Yep.
So
yeah. Seeing you then. Huh?
Nothing. That was it.
Okay. Yeah. We'll be seeing you next time. Hopefully it won't take
We've been doing them about every 2 weeks. That's probably going to remain the case.
That's fine.
We'll see.
Goodbye.
All right.